Now that the McCourt suit is finally settled, the LA Dodgers are attracting many suitors. We'll set the stage for a sale that could set records. Plus, we take a private VIP tour of MetLife Stadium with the CEO for a host.
Well, actually, some of it is really high tech. Let me give you an example.
Morphed to Kerry Collins within 25 seconds by the president of the new Meadowlands Stadium company.
And an owner assesses the business of Major League Soccer. How's that Beckham experiment working out?
David has elevated not just the brand and the exposure, David has elevated the play.
We're raising our game this week on Sportfolio. Hello, I'm Rick Haro, and welcome to Sportfolio. This week, we go beyond the scoreboard with Tim Lewicki on the state of the MLS, and we go behind the scenes at MetLife Stadium with new Meadowlands Chief Executive Mark Lamping. But first, let's go inside the numbers and get a handle on a situation that's been coming to a head for months. What's going on with the Los Angeles Dodgers? Back in April, Major League Baseball took over management control of the Dodgers from Frank McCourt because of what the commissioner called deep concern over the team's finances and operation. And in June, the Dodgers filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Throughout the summer, McCourt and MLB wrestled over legal control of the franchise. And on November 1st, the two parties announced a court-supervised process to sell the team, its stadium, and parking lots in a manner designed to realize maximum value to McCourt and the Dodgers. Here to explain how we got here is Tom Salerno of the law firm of Squire, Sanders, and Dempsey, who represented the Phoenix Coyotes as they restructured in bankruptcy. He joins us from Phoenix. Tom, you've been following this battle between baseball and McCourt forever. Can we say there's been a winner and a loser so far?
I don't think so, Rick. I think these two parties have fought themselves into a draw, and ultimately we're going to see what happens in this auction because that's going to determine who the winner and loser would be in this situation.
Well, this began as a divorce case, as we know, and now it's a bankruptcy case. Are we out of the legal labyrinth, or are there other legal wrinkles to come?
Rick, there's going to be a number of other legal wrinkles to come in this mess. What you're going to see is Fox Broadcasting in particular are going to take serious umbrage at any sort of attempt to sell media rights out from their exclusivity provisions. It's interesting to me that you still don't have a deal that's been filed with the court.
A lot of interrelated issues coming into play here. This isn't over. And to help us understand the value of the Dodgers' assets and how they might be priced, Bob Caporal now joins us from Miami. He's chairman of Game Plan LLC, the company that helped broker Frank McCourt's purchase of the Dodgers in '04. Bob, you're not representing McCourt in the sale of the team, but you have a sense of the interest among buyers. Tell us now what happens in the auction process.
Well, I think the first step is we need to see what the bankruptcy court approves as the actual process. And part of that, it seems to me, will be how Major League Baseball will exercise their pre-approval rights. I think it's clear from the media reports there's already quite a bit of interest in this iconic brand. And as Tom indicated, you also have the interesting fact that both Fox and Time Warner seem to be in quite a competition to control these rights in the LA market as soon as they become available, as soon as Fox's contract terminates.
And of course, there's history of this whole auction process with the Texas Rangers last year. But do you anticipate a bidding war that'll take that price north of $1 billion?
I'm not sure it'll be a bidding war per se, because there aren't many people who can bring together the amount of capital that's going to be needed for this transaction. And it also, an important factor when you have a transaction that involves a team, a stadium, over 200 acres, is certainty of closing the transaction. So it may not be the highest bidder, it may be the bidder who can bring the most amount of money, but also has the certainty that he can close the transaction within the required time requirements.
And certainly a limited pool of capable buyers in this context. But now here's where the legal and economic issues do intersect. Bud Selig's come under scrutiny for fudging baseball's rules of debt-to-equity ratio and approving ownership bids. Tom, I imagine McCourt's lawyers will be watching this very closely.
Absolutely. And just as we saw in the Rangers case, Major League Baseball's rights to approve are not going to be given complete deference. And I think Major League Baseball knows that, and they're going to be very careful because they know that they're doing this under a very public spotlight.
Bob, you agree or what?
I think the fact that it's going to be supervised by a bankruptcy court makes a level playing field for buyers and seller.
Well, Bob, follow up. How complicated is enforcing that 60-40 rule in astronomical deals like this?
Well, I think the bigger issue, quite frankly, is the current tightness of the credit markets. I think we know from the media reports that Frank actually did a great job in turning around the business of the Dodgers, turning them into a profitable business. They were not profitable when he bought it. The real question is, what is the amount of debt that lenders would be willing to lend against all of these assets? And my experience has always been, once you have a debt commitment to purchase an MLB team, you need to sit down with Major League Baseball and basically negotiate the applicability of the baseball debt service rule, which is part of the collective bargaining agreement.
Finally, an intriguing wild card. We've been tracking LA's quest to attract an NFL franchise. Bob, might some investors see this as an opportunity to own the Dodgers and also develop an NFL stadium plan at Chavez Ravine?
Well, there clearly is that opportunity, and as we know, it's been stated publicly that the NFL and many NFL owners believe Chavez Ravine is a spectacular site for an NFL stadium. Again, I think it comes down to economics. It's going to take an awful lot of money just to buy the Dodger Stadium and the real estate. If you add on the cost of trying to develop an NFL stadium on that property, you're probably doubling the cost of the venture. I'm not sure there are many people who can do it, but if someone really was interested in also being the owner of an NFL team in LA, this would be the opportunity to do it.
Small handful of buyers even eligible for this. We've said that before. Tom Salerno, Bob Caporell, thanks for joining us on Sportfolio. We'll bring you back for more analysis as this very interesting situation develops. Now that we've had a guided tour of the business mess in LA, a very different kind of tour is coming up. The new Meadowlands Stadium has a new sponsor, MetLife, and a big event to look forward to in 2014.
Without this building, we would not have the Super Bowl.
An exec's eye view of a sports and entertainment showplace when we return on Sportfolio. Welcome back to Sportfolio. With all due respect to Jerry Jones, the most ambitious NFL construction project ever undertaken has to be MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. It cost a record $1.6 billion to build, and the bill was split 50-50 between two NFL teams who now jointly operate the facility. The man who has to keep the Giants and Jets on the same page and fill the stadium the rest of the year is the CEO of the new Meadowlands Corporation, Mark Lamping. And as you can imagine, he's a really busy guy, but not too busy to take Sportfolio on a private tour.
Unlike a lot of facilities that have been built, first and foremost, this was designed and constructed to provide the best possible environment to enjoy a football game. You know, from not only the way the seating is laid out, the fact that both end zones are enclosed, which can make it a very loud place, as we've already seen, but also some of the amenities. Just look at the video boards in the building. There really wasn't an idea of trying to build the biggest or the most video boards, but trying to get the right sized video boards, get them in the right locations. And so no matter where you're sitting in the building, you know, you can look to your left, you can look to your right, and you're always going to see at least two video boards no matter where the play is on the field.
But the business challenge is interesting, it's daunting. 2 sets of PSL, 2 sets of season tickets, Giants, Jets, 2 sets of corporate boxes. How do you manage that?
Well, fortunately, you've got a great product in the Jets and a great product in the Giants. And while there's a number of shared entities, shared boxes between the two teams, one of the great things about this building is its ability to transform itself.
Now, the rumor is that you're personally responsible for pushing the button that turns this from Jets green to Giants blue before every game. Is that right?
Well, that's a great fable. Unfortunately, it's not true. But there is an interesting part about that is, there's about 2,700 individual elements throughout the stadium that convert from one team to the next, week in and week out. And of those, about 2,000 of them literally changed with the press of the button. Now it's multiple buttons throughout the whole building, but it is a great building in that it really can change its look and its feel depending on who happens to be the home team. We have our 4 cornerstone positions, and each of those with, really top-notch companies like Verizon, Pepsi, Anheuser-Busch, And each of those are investments that aren't that different than most naming rights deals in the NFL. And then we have our recently announced naming rights partner, which we're thrilled with, the MetLife company.
All right, so we're obviously at a corporate nerve center here. This is Commissioners Club?
Yeah, it's a Commissioners Club, which is a great space. There's 20 smaller suites, and they all share a all-inclusive area, and it's been a tremendous success.
Commissioners Club is an interesting segue because the commissioner has been instrumental in working with you guys, but also to help facilitate the first cold weather Super Bowl. You're ready for it in 2014. I know you personally have guaranteed good weather for that particular February day. What are the dynamics of that? How important is that Super Bowl to you?
Well, it's really important to the building, and it's also important to the fan base, but I think at the end of the day, the big winner here is going to be the region. It's quite a statement that the NFL would take their first cold weather Super Bowl to a open air stadium, and they would choose to do it in this marketplace. Without this building, we would not have the Super Bowl. We've been able to attract some very significant events just in the short history of the building. We were the busiest building in the country in terms of gross dollars last year. Promoters want to come here with big events. None of that would have happened without the building.
In MetLife Stadium's first year of operation, over 1.2 million fans attended 16 Giants and Jets home games. That's a lot of eyeballs for stadium sponsors. And with the Giants and Jets in the playoff mix, there should be plenty of bonus exposures in 2011. This week's Sportfolio Stumper is for those who like to count the house. MetLife Stadium has the largest permanent seating capacity in the NFL. But what stadium has the smallest capacity? Answer when we return. Here's the answer to this week's Sportfolio Stumper. The NFL stadium with the smallest permanent seating capacity is the home of the Bears, Soldier Field, which seats 61,500 Bears fans. But stadium size isn't everything. And for proof, look at Major League Soccer. In the last 8 years, MLS has opened 9 soccer-only facilities seating between 18 and 27,000, and the league has thrived. Tim Lywicki and AEG built the Home Depot Center in Los Angeles, among other venues. Tim serves as president of the LA Galaxy and made the deal to bring David Beckham to America. So he's the perfect guy to ask what convinces him that the MLS will succeed where other U.S. soccer leagues have failed.
If you look at the league, the expansion, the success we're having in places like Seattle, Vancouver, Portland, and now Montreal, if you look at the success that we've been able to sustain here with the Galaxy, we're now considered one of the top 50 clubs in the world, our brand and the recognition that we have as a club. You look at the play and the kind of players that we have here with David Beckham and Robbie Keane and Landon Donovan and Juninho, and suddenly it's not only a great style of soccer and a great game to watch, but we're beginning to get recognition from all over the world. I think when you see people writing a check for $50 million to buy expansion teams, it is a good indication of the trust investors have at buying franchises and investing in our league.
And the MLS single entity structure from day one, it works?
Predictability. We have predictability of cost, and we don't get into a situation where the salaries and our payrolls go spiraling out of control. That said, teams like LA have the right to step up and do what we've done. We have 3 designated players. We pay them above and beyond the single entity base, and each and every team has the right to spend above and beyond on those 3 slots. So some teams, Columbus, maybe that doesn't make sense in that marketplace. When you're in New York and LA, and when you're competing against a dozen other sports franchises in this marketplace, if we don't have David Beckham, if we don't have Landon Donovan, if we don't have Robbie Keane, we're not going to stand out. So economically for us, it makes sense. But at the same time, it's a decision each and every club gets to make. And if they choose not to make it, they got great predictability within the single entity salary structure.
And the other really important piece of MLS revenue, soccer-specific, soccer-dominating stadiums. 9 of them, more on the way. Is that an important piece of the puzzle for fans, teams, cities, and the like?
I think so. We're going to open our Houston Stadium next year, and that'll be the newest and not necessarily the best, because a lot of people have spent a huge amount of money on stadiums, and we're driven by trying to make sure that economically that we can make this work. That said, when you look at the economics of Houston and what happens the day that stadium opens, they will triple their revenue, triple. If you look at the Home Depot Center, amazingly, they called it the Cathedral of Soccer when it opened. Arguably, I'd say Kansas City and their stadium there in New York and what the Red Bulls did there. Clearly, where we're headed to now in Vancouver with their new stadium that opens up soon. The good news is that others have answered the charge. They built stadiums that are as good or better than the Home Depot Center. So people are I know Robbie Keane, when he came to the Galaxy, he started going back to his friends in Europe and the players in Europe saying, you guys don't get what's going on over here. Their facilities are as good, if not better. Their training facilities are as good, if not better. And this is the best training facility at the Galaxy Home Depot Center location I've ever been a part of. Now, this is a guy that's played with some pretty good teams over there. So I think the whole world now is amazed at the success that Don Garber and the governors have had within that league. We're proud to be a part of it, and I don't see any time in the future that we get out of it or lose our passion for it. And the fact that the Galaxy are having the success they're having now on and off the pitch, we put all of the critics to bed now. I don't have people asking me about the Beckham experience. We're going to hopefully win the Supporter Shield, and we're going to hopefully do well in the playoffs again, and we're doing well in CONCACAF. And the fact now that this team is one of the top 50 brands in all of soccer, that is a huge credit to David Beckham. And yes, that experience and that experiment worked.
How ironic. Next question, the Beckham experience. It worked. You defined it as working. You've had an opportunity to reflect back on 5 years. Sold a lot of hats, sold a lot of shirts. A lot of people want to kind of quantify it in other economic terms. You feel very good about that experiment, obviously. Will he be back with the Galaxy next year?
I hope so. We've made it clear we'd like to have him back. When you win the Supporter Shield last year, hopefully we're successful this year in repeating and having 2 back-to-back Supporter Shield. When you see how good we've become in international competition now, when you see the draw result we had with Man City, one of the best teams in the world, David has elevated not just the brand and the exposure, David has elevated the play. Robbie Keane wouldn't be here today without David Beckham. Thierry Henry would not be in New York without David Beckham. I think those that want to debate whether or not David has worked, just go to Vancouver and Seattle. Those teams and those owners don't come in without David Beckham, and the awareness and the exposure that he created in the sport, and the fact that he showed them, my goodness, we've sold out every away game this year. That's how good the Galaxy have become with David Beckham, is we're selling all of our games out on the road every place we go.
Major League Soccer attendance was up 7% in the regular season from 2010, with 14 of the 18 teams reporting attendance increases. 10 teams played at more than 80% capacity for the season. Still ahead on Sportfolio, a business lesson from one of the most cerebral owners in football. Jeffrey Lurie explains what he thinks is the secret to the NFL's success. He calls it monetizing hope.
Unlike most sports leagues around the world, the NFL has found a way to guarantee popularity.
Professor Lurie next on Sportfolio. Jeffrey Lurie of the Eagles is the only current NFL owner with a PhD degree. He earned his doctorate in social policy from Brandeis. He's thoughtful and analytical by temperament and also by training. So when he offers a theory explaining why the NFL's business model is so thoroughly successful, it's worth listening to.
Unlike most sports leagues around the world, the NFL has found a way to guarantee popularity. And what is often missing when you analyze the business model of the NFL is by guaranteeing equal spending by all franchises, it cuts through market differences. It cuts through small markets, medium markets, large markets. It cuts through owners that are worth $30 billion, $1 billion, $500 million, or whatever. It cuts through all differences, guarantees that all NFL teams spend the exact same amount of money, and therefore monetizes hope. Now that sounds like a soft business expression. It's as hard as you get. Once you guarantee equal spending, then the Green Bays and the Clevelands and the Kansas Cities and the Pittsburghs, if you just take the Pirates and the Steelers, look at the different situations in those two sports, because everyone is competitive. Everyone has an equal chance of succeeding. So that's why the viewership is so high. Doesn't exist in any other sport. That's what the model is predicated on. That's why Sunday Ticket is worth what it is. It's why all the network television contracts are worth what they are, because television viewing is so extraordinary. It's why 100 million people every weekend watch the NFL. So it's not like traditional labor negotiations. What the players understood under Gene Upshaw, what the teams understood for the last decade, is you can grow the pie in a much bigger way than points on a labor negotiation. So when I say monetize hope, it sounds soft. It's very different than soft.
Monetizing hope. Well, the stats bear out the theory. Through the first 9 weeks of the season, 6 of the NFL's 8 division leaders were teams that didn't even make the playoffs last year. That's it for this edition of Sportfolio. We'd like to thank Jeffrey Lurie, Tim Lewicki, Mark Lamping, Tom Salerno, and Bob Caporal for coming on the show. And thanks, as always, for watching. To check out all of our Sportfolio shows, be sure to visit our website. And for more on the business of sports, log on to our weekly sports and entertainment dollar column at businessweek.com. We'll see you next time on Sportfolio.